Evening everyone. Just got my tea. Welcome to Wednesday's live crafting with me. Just changing some lights around. There's a light that's really glaring in my eyes and I don't like it. Wait for a few people to join us better and then we'll get started. Okay, so a few people are joining us now. I'll wait till we've got about 7 and then we'll get started. I'm going to drink my tea, it's almost cold. Bonsoir Sophie, hope you've had a lovely day. Hi Bev, hope you're okay. Feel free to say hi guys. Hello Mum. Hello Christine. Okay, right, let's get started. So Wednesday here, hope you're all having a lovely week. It's our first full week of school and we're all so tired, but my house hasn't looked so tidy in the last 7 months, so that's exciting. Tonight I wasn't sure what I was going to do for you tonight, but I've done something a little bit different for me. I don't normally do ink blending. Me and ink blending are not friends, but I'm getting to grips with it slowly. So I have made a bit of an ink blending style card for you tonight, and it's using the lovely gnome for the holidays. I adore this stamp set. I absolutely adore it. And for those of you that follow my personal account, you would have seen yesterday I collected a little hand painted gnome. So it feels quite Christmassy here at the moment because he's out on display. I won't put him away now. Okay, so I'm going to flip my camera around and see my desk and then we will get started. If you've got any questions as we go along, feel free to ask them. Let me know what you think. And yeah, let's get going. So I'll just pause my camera and we will get started. Okay. This is my desk. Not bad guys, eh? Right, I'm going to sit down tonight because my little legs are achy from lots of housework today. So this is the card that I've put together for you. Like I said, it is a bit different for me. I've used these lovely sponge Brayers, which are in the catalogue. You get 2 handles and you get 4 rollers. And this is my little card. So I've done some ink blending on the background. And I'm going to show you this really cute technique to create the moon, and then we've got a little bit of colouring on our tree stump and our little character. She's a bit wonky. I stamped her. My stamping isn't great on her, but my colouring is okay. And then we've got a little bit of thread, which you don't actually need, but it just adds a little bit of texture. And then we've got some embossing right there. So let's get started. So this card, you don't actually need that much for this card. I have here a Whisper White card base, and I have a piece of Whisper White card that actually I need to cut down, so I'm just going to quickly do that. And I've got a wire right around my foot. Let's not get tangled up in that. Okay, so let's just cut this down. So my card base is a standard card base. It measures 14.9 centimetres by 29.8. No, that's even wrong. I'm going to tell you what this measures. This measures 21 centimetres by 14.9. So that makes our card face, this measures 10.5 by 14.9. So I've got a piece of white that measures 10 by 14.4. Got there in the end. So it's half a centimetre smaller. Now, believe it or not, this sheet here started like this. So I'm going to show you how to create this little base. So, believe it or not, I'm going to start by stamping this little guy, okay, because then we know where it's going to be. Just moving all my pieces out of the way. So we want this so that it's roughly there, like so. Isn't he lovely? Whilst we're stamping that, we're going to stamp that again onto some white, and I'm stamping with Early Espresso. So if you're going to use stamping blends without ink pads, these classic stamping pads, you just want to make sure that it's dry. So I always try and stamp my image, and then I'm going to put that to one side. So now we know where this is, we can do two things. So the first thing that we are going to do is we're going to take a Post-it note, standard old Post-it note, and on the sticky side here I'm going to cut a circle so that some of the circle, so this part of the circle here is got the stickiness under it. Okay, pull that out like so, and then because it's only paper it will get caught ever so slightly, so just trim round so that you cut off any excess pieces like so. So now we know we've got a circle, we're going to stick that down, and I'm doing this so that it overlaps. Okay, so that is now stuck, and then I'm going to use, so these rollers, because our inks are water based, you can take these in, run them under a tap, and the colour will come out of them. You just need to make sure that you really, really dry them well. So this is a sponge roller. I'm just going to ink it in my, the idea is it comes out like so. So all I'm going to do is hold down my Post-it and just run my roller across. Okay, just going to move out my, that's better. See more now. So just roll this over and build up that colour, and then you want to stop so that the ground kind of starts just at the grass level. Okay, and don't worry that we're colouring over this because it all will become clear. That's why we've stamped two of them. So if you don't want to get the line effect, all you do is you then turn and go the other way. You will get a bit inky because the ink on that Post-it note, but some cards are worth getting inky for. And obviously the more times you go over, the darker that ink will be. So it's up to you how dark you want it. Okay, so I think I'm quite happy with that. So that's really quite dark. Okay, so just peel off your Post-it and you're left with that lovely white circle. Now the tip with this bit is don't put your fingers in that. Now we're going to take a piece of white card and punch a hole out of it with the same punch, and we're going to lay this on like so. So that is exactly the same size, and we are going to, I've got here a sponge dauber, and I haven't brought the ink pad over, I'm just going to grab that, just to take the edge off of that white. I've got a smoky slate ink pad, and I'm just going to, I need to be quite gentle with this, so hold that in place. Add some ink, and you want to take most of the ink off and just go round the edge of that circle, and you will barely see it, but it just takes the edge off. Okay. And just keep going until you are happy with what you've got. Okay, like so. So that is our background done like that. Now what we need to do is we need to do the ground. So you just pop out your glue roller, put that to one side because that will be, look at my fingers. This is why I don't do ink blending, because I always end up in a real old mess. So now what we want is we want a crumb cake ink for our ground. Ink up our roller and then just do exactly the same thing. Okay. Until we are happy. And you can go over that line if you wish to just blend that colour in. And what I like about this is, one, it's really easy. I like the way it blends at the line at where they meet. Okay, so there we have the start of our scene. Okay, just going to have a mouthful of my tea. Now you'll see on here I've got some lovely white speckles. I'm just going to grab my heat tool because it's plugged in behind me. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to do that. And a lot of people say to me, what on earth do you use Whisper White ink for? Well, this is what you use it for. So I have here a large block. This is one of our large acrylic blocks, and I'm just going to add a few little dobs of the ink. So it's really gloopy, so you can't really do much with it. But then I've got here a spritzer. I'm just going to spritz, and you'll see that the colour starts to really run. And then all I'm going to do is I'm using an old aqua painter. You can use an old paintbrush. And then all we're going to do is I'm going to use my finger for this. But before we do that, I want to cover up that bottom part of the card. And again, this is where grid paper comes in really handy. Okay, so I've inked up my brush and I'm just going to push against it with my finger. Okay, so you can see you get that lovely speckled. And the idea is it looks like stars. Okay. And when you are happy with what you've got, just take your heat tool and go over it. And that will dry really nicely. You'll get lots of tone. And then if you want to add any more, you can. So I'm just going to add a little bit more. I'm just going to pop that to one side, and then that ends up looking like so. So let me know what you think. But before we move on, I'm going to do some speckling down here, but not with the white. I'm going to do it with a stamping blend. So I've got a dark soft suede stamping blend, and I'm going to just do the same with the nib. So we have a completely speckled, ink blended card. Okay. It doesn't look massively impressive right now, does it? But it will do. So now what you can do is you can attach that to your card like so. And that actually, for the texture on that, feels really, really nice. So now what we're going to do is we're going to bring back in our little tree stump. Evening to Lynn's. Thanks for joining us. I think I saw Sharon hop on as well. Hi to Sharon. Sorry, I didn't say hello. I was mid-flow. Okay, so now I'm going to do some colouring. So I've got dark old olive for the grass. I'm going to bring that in a little bit so you can see how I colour this. Oh. That's better. So I'm using the fine end. I stamped this earlier at the beginning of this video using Early Espresso, which is our dark, one of the darkest brown that we have. Just going to go over the leaves. And then for the tree stump, I've got light and dark soft suede. I'm starting with the light. I'm just colouring in the tree. I will add my shading kind of as I go. So I start by colouring all of it in light. Okay. And then we'll go in with our dark. So for the dark, I'm kind of going into the creases and where the dark, where the light won't really catch. And I'm going round the baubles the light, so that they kind of stand out a little bit more. I remember when the first person said, think about where the light will be, and it took me ages to kind of get my head around that, but once you do, I think that it does make colouring a lot easier. So I've gone round with my dark, and now I'm going back over with my light. And just go over until you're happy with what you've got. We all look at things very differently, so there is no right or wrong. It's just how you interpret a stamp set or an image or anything really. So we have that. Now our little lights, I'm putting in some little grey holders, and then for the lights I've gone with a dark Mango Melody. Okay, and I'm just going around the edge where the shading is on the stamp, and then filling in with some light. And then the door. So the door I've actually coloured in grey. I'm going to stick with that. Colour in with the light. And then go over just slightly with the dark. And there already is a couple of little shadow lines here. over again with the light. And then for the inside the window, I've used a black Stampin' Right marker, which is it on my desk? No, it isn't. Oh, it is. Here it is. I'm just going to use the little, because the lights are off because she's standing outside. So now what we're going to do is we're going to cut this out. Not like that, I'm going to obviously cut that out a lot better than that. So because this is going onto the card, I'm not going to leave a white border. I'm going to cut out on that line, on my stamped line. And just follow the tops of that colouring round. Okay. This feels even more fiddly than normal because I'm used to leaving a little edge and not kind of cutting into things. And then I'm going to show you a little tip. Thank you, Linz, that's really kind of you. Linz has put, looks fab, great colouring. Okay, so my little tip, when you add this to your card, you can actually see a little white edge in places, and I don't want to see that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go round the edge. So you can't really, I don't know if the camera will pick up on that. So there, look, you can see the white edge. We don't want that. So all I'm doing is going round with a stamping blend to get rid of that. And I'm not using an especially dark colour, but I'm just kind of going round. That's it. Where's the lid gone? Here it is. I feel like all I'm doing tonight is losing things. So that is going to be stuck down there, but actually that looks really quite flat. So a little tip with this, we're going to curl it. Okay. So I'm just using the edge of a blend and it was curling it like that. Just gives a little bit more, makes it look more realistic, I think. So I'm going to put two Stampin' Dimensionals in the middle, and then onto this bauble and this bauble I'm just putting a little bit of wet glue, because those are the areas where that's actually going to touch. You can, if you want to, add a bit down here and a bit down here. Okay. And then take off the backs. And then all we're going to do is we're going to line up the edging like so. So can you see that? We've got a nice little, I just think it looks a little bit more realistic than sticking it down completely flat. Okay, now if you wanted to, you can just kind of go over that line so that it looks like that grass kind of carries on like so. And then we're going to give a quick little colouring of these little dots. Okay, just to make that feel a little bit more realistic as well. So we have our first little part of the tree stump scene, and then next we are going to stamp our little lady. And I'm going to stamp her with Memento. So when you're using stamping blends, this is the ink that we would recommend you use so that there's less bleeding when you colour in. You don't have to wait for it to dry either. So for her, we are going to colour in her hat. So So her hat is a lovely little Christmas tree. It's very cute. I'd like a Christmas hat like this. Okay, so I'm just colouring in her little hat. Okay, and to get the definition in those layers, just go over the edge and it should happen. Okay, we've got two little leaves here, holly leaves. Okay, and then for the red, I'm using real red. Is it dark? It is dark. Do like real red. And it is exactly what it says. It is the real, I think it's the truest red that we have. So I'm going to leave her little apron white. And then I'm just colouring in so she looks a bit Christmassy. For her shoes, I'm just going to colour those in brown. And then her hair, I'm actually going to colour with crumb cake. Just caught her face slightly there. And then for her skin, I'm actually going to use ivory. Careful not to colour in her eyes. And then, so she looks a little bit flushed, I'm just going to colour her cheeks with a little petal pink. And then the star at the top is going to be light mango. So then now we just need to cut her out. Okay. So again, I'm going to cut her out on the line. Sharon's just put she loves the pens. They are amazing. You can get them in pretty much all the colours now. They kind of released several colours at a time, but they are super, super handy, especially if you like a bit of colouring. I'm just trimming her round. Hilary can't stand the gnomes. Hilary, how are we friends? I love a gnome. But she likes the techniques. That's lovely. Thank you, Hilary. Be careful not to chop off these little baubles. And then the star is actually the fiddliest part. Let's hope I don't cut my fingers off. So let's just follow it round. Okay, nearly there. I have to chop off those bits. They get in the way, they get a bit annoying. So I'm almost there now, just trimming round to the bottom. Just her little feet, don't chop her feet off. Okay, so there we have Little Miss Gnome, like so. I'm just bending her kind of so she's not stuck down flat either, and then we'll just pop a little dimensional under her and then pop her on. So there she is, waiting outside her little tree house. all Christmassy. I'm just going to grab some embossing. So then, the next bit we need to do is the little sentiment. So this sentiment says, there's no place like Nome for the Christmas season. How cute. So we're just going to emboss. I've got a piece of black card. This is roughly an inch wide. And I've just gone over with an embossing buddy. The reason we do that is we just take the static off the card. I'm just going to move my camera out a bit so you can see a bit more of what I'm doing. My desk looks like chaos, doesn't it? So we're going to stamp with Versamark. Versamark is a sticky ink pad, and we're going to stamp towards the left, okay? Just in the middle, vertically. So you can't actually really see that, you can just see it catching the light. So then this is the embossing powder. If we dip it in, the embossing powder sticks to the stamping, and then what we're going to do is we're going to heat that with our heat tool, and you'll see that will change and that will stick, go nice and bright, and that means it's set. So you might not be able to see that because the text is quite skinny. You can just about see that. You can see it getting brighter. Don't burn your fingers. You could always hold it with tweezers if you wanted to. So then that is lovely and set. Love that little sentiment. Oh, Sophie's just put her dog chewed the embossing buddy yesterday. Was a disaster. Oh my gosh, is the dog okay? That sounds like something Dave would do. I shouldn't laugh, but whoops. So the blue that I use for the sky, Bev's asked what colour that is. I've used Misty Moonlight. There we have it. I'll just hold it up a bit more. And you actually get lots of different tones in there with the sponge brayer. So then now we can pop on our little sentiment. Before we do that, we want to fishtail the ends. So the technique for this is just snip off where you want it to be, and then you're going to snip in the middle, and then from each corner you're going to snip into. Okay. So then you should have an equal fishtail, and we do. So that is going to go on there like so, but we also have a little bit of ribbon. I think the ribbon just lifts it. Oh, sorry, this isn't ribbon, this is twine. This comes from the Playful Pets combo pack, and I'm really quite taken with it. So for our ribbon, we're going to tie it round. I'm going to go around twice actually. And then I'm going to tie this in a little knot. Like so. And then cut off the ends. I'm just going to trim them off a bit close because I don't want to see those. Okay, so then this, Sophie's just put, he was okay, just a bit of intestinal crow's. My gosh, I'm so glad he's okay, Sophie. That must have been really terrifying and messy. Okay, so let's pop two of these on, and then I'm going to use just a little bit to stick onto the edge. Get rid of the backs, and then all we do is we pop that on like so. So I'm going to leave that like that. I'm not actually going to pop the ribbon on. You can tell me which one you prefer. So those are our finished cards this evening. So for the background, I've done some ink blending with the sponge Brayers. They look like this. Really, really handy. And I have created the little moon using a template with a post-it note. So you can watch it all back with all of this, so feel free to rewind or watch again. I've used the tree stump image, and that's nice and raised as well, so you can see that like so. And it's slightly curved as well, so it looks a bit more realistic than being stuck down flat. We've coloured in our little gnome lady, and then I've done some heat embossing for the sentiment and tied some twine, which I think the twine just lifts it a little bit more. So that's it for me this evening. I will update my blog with a full list of products that I've used. If anyone has any questions, feel free to drop me a message or leave me a comment. I'll try and come back to you this evening, as I'm still out here for a little while longer. I'm not live again now until Sunday. So I'll be Sunday at 8:30 in the evening. And that's it from me for tonight. So thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate you taking the time. Enjoy the rest of your week, and I will speak to you all very, very soon. Thanks everyone. Take care. Bye.